Yo, Freak Show, I hope you're having a great day. I'm going to get into my PS5 review right after the branding. Hey guys, thanks for coming to the review, if you want to call it that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the system, what I really enjoy about it, what I think are great improvements, what I think are terrible, a few specs on. I mean, it's not going to be a huge technical review or anything like that, but these are my thoughts. These are my my understanding about the system in general and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so here we go. If you like the video, think about hitting a like. Hitting a sub button would be much appreciated. Leave a comment down below if you have a new system, if you're hoping to get a new system, what you think about the new system from what you've seen. Anyway, here we are. We might take a little tour on the B-roll and that sort of stuff, just to give you an idea of what's going on here. First off, PS5 is a monster. It's absolutely huge, really massive, kind of alien looking, weird, flappy plastic, not your usual box looking type thing. When they came out with the PS3 way long ago and they had that really large, like, arcing piece of plastic over the top, it just was unconventional in the design of what a computer kind of looks like or thinks, and kind of like broke the boundaries of what an initial type system looks like. It's just very interesting to see the counterpart of Xbox go from square to square to square to square. But inside of this, I mean, they did a little bit with the 360, making it look a little bit different or whatever, but they're literally called Xbox, so it makes sense why it would be a box. But anyway, going into this one, it's kind of weird in the fact that they would do like this wavy S design that has this weird stand that props to the engineer. I know I said that in the unboxing, but like props to the engineer who made that stand, because the stand is a work of art in and of itself. Anyway, if you're the engineer who made that, gloat it up, because that's pretty ingenious. I really like that. Going into the actual system itself, there's a few less optical ins and outs and that sort of stuff. You have obviously your Ethernet port, you have the AC power adapter, you have two USB A's on the back end, and then the HDMI to go out to the screen. That's all they have on the back end. On the front end, you have an USB A and a USB-C, both of which are pretty much intended for controller charging and that sort of stuff. The controller uses a USB-C when it's charging and that sort of stuff. But anyway, enough about hardware and all that technical specificities of that. I mean, we'll talk about the controller in just a little bit, because that's the bread and butter of what this goes into. The system itself is just a monster. I just want to put that on the table, even with the artistic design of whatever that stand has to be. So, moving into some of the software and what I think about the software, the new home layout I think is very interesting. They're playing into allowing games to give a static image, or maybe even like I feel like they could eventually move into like a little cinematographic or like a rolling video that they could play on their home screen, while they've made all of their menu options very small up at the top, forcing you to have a very open area, allowing for the game to be very creative. It's really cool to see that when you go between games, there's a different type of sound that gets played. So like Spider-Man Miles Morales has a different sound than Call of Duty Cold War. And if there is no sound that is available at the time of the game's launch or whatever, they just have the PS5 menu sound on the other end. I thought that was a really cool feature that they put in there, giving a little bit more zeal into the game itself. I can't remember that happening on the PS4. You know, tell me in the comments down below if I'm wrong about that. But anyway, having a smaller game center gives you a lot more area to be more artistic in the game development on the home screen, giving a draw toward your game. So I really like that. With that being said, on the way that the menus work with the notifications, I love that they give you an option for pressing the PS button on the controller in order to interact with a certain notification. So if someone asks you to join a party, you can click the PS button and then it will say, oh, do you want to accept this and go into this game? And it's like, yes, Yes, I do. With that, if you have like a voice channel that you can get into, any of that sort of stuff, the notifications that are interactable or do something for you, you look at the trophies and that sort of stuff, you can literally just press a PS when it pops up and it lets you interact straight into what you're looking at, which I think, beautiful, absolutely fantastic addition or a thing. So I don't have to like go back into the menu and then have to go into the notification section, and then in the notification section have to pull out, go to the notification and interact with the notification. It's like I just have a quick, instant, easy movement right there. They have updated to how you interact with the menu, so you have the game always in a perpetual state of play, and they do this little overcast menu instead of bringing you like closing the window of the game in order for you to go back to interact with the system. They have this overlay menu that comes up with all sorts of stuff as far as like the home button. You can switch between your apps that are open, your notifications bar, your game base with all your party and friends and that sort of stuff. They have a music thing that you can play music for while you're playing. You can adjust the sound that's coming through your mic, the accessories such as your controller and probably headset, and then your profile, and then the power button. But it just overlays on the top of the game so that you're able to actually like interact with the system and do stuff with the system, that you don't have to sit there and like quote unquote close your game. And so with that, when we're talking about speed with how the interaction kind of works, the speed of the actual hard drive of this thing. Now, granted, we've had to deal with PlayStation 3 hardware, which is 2013, circa 2013 components to the 2016 if you got the Pro. That hardware is 4 years old. There's been 4 years of development inside of technology, and technology moves so fast. So that minimum of 4 years has made the hard drive and the load times on this thing astronomically fast. So fast. It is beautiful to see that I'm not having to sit there and wait on a load screen for 30 or 40 seconds before I even get the start menu of a game. When you turn it on, the animation of whatever they made, it's like maybe 10 seconds. That gives them enough time. It gives the system enough time to completely load what you happen. So when the animation is done, it's already allowing you to get into the game. It seems flawless. It seems fast. It seems fluid. Really, really, really great in that sense. And so I don't want to praise it too much because there are some downsides, but we're coming up on most of the praises right now. How fast this thing actually moves and works is fantastic, and I love it. The new PlayStation Party system on how it works, as far as like, I know a lot of people are having issues with how that worked. I feel like it's flawless and good on the PS5, and I wouldn't trade much of it for anything. I'm going to go with one bad thing that I have had happen on this PS5, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on with it, but I can tell you what I feel like is happening, and I'm going to chalk this up to first iteration or first make of the system that may have been a little bit rushed in production. But I have what I feel like is an overheating issue. When I used to have my computers that I built overheat, what they would do in order to not hurt the parts would just shut it down. They crossed a threshold of heat or crossed a threshold of electricity or voltage or any of that sort of stuff that just caused a problem that hit a threshold and causes the whole system to shut off. I've had that happen twice to me, both while playing Call of Duty Cold War, and both of them at points where it seemed like large graphics or things were happening in which the system probably was getting a little warm and then decided to shut off. With the idea of warmth in hand, the back end fan, there's a lot of heat expulsion, which is great for the system to keep parts cool and keep parts going. But with that, there's a lot of heat exploding out the back. Not as much as I feel that Xbox has problem with. I'm not really sure what goes on in that. We're on the PS5 one, so we're just going to continue with the PS5. The back end are the cords that come out of the back end. The heat gets expelled right across the back end of the cords, and everything is very warm back there all the time. Now, I do play 4 and 5 hours at a time for stream, so I feel like that usage is probably a little more than maybe what a typical gamer kind of does, but that heat on the back end is pretty warm when I'm touching the system. So those are pretty much the two bad things. You have this turn off, this overheat, what I feel like happens, in which I have to unplug the system and replug the system back in for it to actually turn back on. And then you have the heat actually being expelled into the room, and it's going across all your cord connections in the back, which I feel like deteriorates your cords a little bit faster than what they should. But again, being what, a week and a half old or 2 weeks old, it's not something I'm going to worry about at the current moment. Okay, moving on to what I think is the pièce de résistance. I'm going to kind of close up my PS5 review with this. Most things are very, very positive with the system, but this probably outdoes anything that I've talked about so far, and it's controller layout. The more that I have used the controller, the more I have grown to love it and think that it is fantastic. Very similar to what the old controller was like. It is a little bit bigger, which I think is really good for anybody who's an adult playing the game who has maybe a bigger hand type thing. I've compared it multiple times to the Xbox controller. The Xbox One controller felt like it was a real controller in your hand. Like, it felt big enough to actually play the game with. You didn't have to, like, you know, with the PS4, I felt like I kept putting the controller into the middle of my hand in order for my fingers to fit on the triggers and the thumbsticks at the same time. And with the Xbox, I felt like the controller had a firm grip allowed to be able to interact with the triggers and also use the thumbsticks. And so I felt like the Xbox controller had a more girthy feel and was really good. PS5 has upgraded their size of their controller to where you have a more girthy feel for the controller, and you're able to actually grip the entire thing with a full palm grip, which I felt was really, really good. The next part that I'm going to talk about is the haptic feedback. This controller can vibrate like crazy. You can get small little vibrations. You can get big whopping vibrations. There's different sets of vibrations. So inside of the PS4 controller, you had these little tumblers that was a motor, and the motor would just turn on and off, and it was, you know, a decentralized weight motor so that it would cause it to jump. And this one, you have little sensors that are haptic feedback, which don't have a motor-esque type movement, but they vibrate. And when they vibrate, you can get small voltage, you can get high voltage, which then increases or decreases how much vibration you get, which is really, really cool. I really, really enjoy that. That is the system that this uses for vibration. Along with that, button layouts on this. So the controller has, just looking at it from bottom to top in the middle, you're going to have a mic, then you're going to have a mic mute button. You have the PS button, a speaker, and then a touchpad right in the middle. You have your standard controller layout on the outside with, you know, the four interaction, X, square, triangle, and circle, along with your two joysticks, and then the D-pad on the left side, and your options and share feature are still there. So everything seems relatively similar, but this middle part, they have a mic introduced into the controller itself. It still has the aux cable. If you're using a aux headset that you want to plug into your controller, you can definitely use that. But there's an integrated mic onto the PS5 controller in and of itself. That integrated mic apparently does pretty well for picking up whoever's right there. And there's this is an astounding thing that I think is super great. For this system, you have a mic mute button, an instant mic mute button. So you can literally just click that and the entire system itself will mute your mic, whether you have a headset controller on, whether you're using the in-game controller mic, whether you're using what I'm using, in the fact that I am taking my mic and running it through a USB adapter on the back end. The system will just shut your mic off completely. And I think that is fantastic. I think that is a great improvement, that if I need to mute immediately, I can just, and, you know, boom, and it's right there. It's just one click, boom, your whole entire system mutes your mic. So I like that. I think that's great. Moving forward from that, you have a little speaker. So your headset, your comms come out of the speaker on the controller. There are times where you get little verbiage coming out of the controller instead of coming out of the system itself, kind of talking to you directly, which I feel is very interesting and very good. The last little tidbit of this controller that I think makes this crazy, and I remember seeing this on the promo of them showing, but not understanding exactly what it was, are the adaptive triggers. The adaptive triggers make FPS crazy. Now, of course, this is all up to the programmer as far as when they're designing the game, whether they want to use these or not, whether or not they want to implement these. But the triggers are actually codable. They actually have like a artificial resistance, basically using what I'm understanding to be magnets, the same way that like a exercise bike, you can just increase the magnets. It makes it harder to pull, harder to use. I'm pretty sure that's what the adaptive triggers are using, is just a magnetic system in which they cause more resistance. And so what the programmers have done, especially with Cold War, is use these adaptive triggers to make your aiming of the gun, your ADSing with L trigger, you have to actually hold, and it takes like some extra pressure to actually pull up the gun. And then on your right trigger, when you're actually shooting the gun, there's like a stop mechanism, so it gets to a spot and it stops, and then when you click, you have to like forcefully click past that part of the trigger to actually get it to fire. And when you do that, it starts vibrating. I think it's ingenious. I think it's really cool to have that happen in the game. It gives a new sensation when playing, because you're like actually pulling a trigger, and then it starts vibrating like a gun would actually vibrate when it's firing rounds. So I thought that was really, really cool. I really enjoy that new part that they have put into the system with the adaptive triggers. And so that's kind of exciting to see where it's going with that. It seems like there was some time put into the controller for sure. But with all of that being said, I don't think that there is necessarily something about the controller that's like must have, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's a cool feature, but it's not necessary. And I feel like a lot of people who are going to try and play and be really good at, any kind of shooting game or whatever, are going to turn those features off. I like playing with them on, and it does affect my gameplay a little bit, but I'm having fun with it, so I really enjoy it. And so anyway, that's pretty much the controller. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's really great. The one thing that I say probably could be was the mic mute button. That could be pretty much essential. I just don't want to hype it up too much, because even though it is the PS5 system and there's a lot of good things that are with it and things that come with it, I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe as I'm sitting here thinking, maybe it is kind of needed. Just alone the time for loading really does come through really good. I just don't want to like influence people or tell people that it's a must have and that you must pay through $400-$500 to get the system. The PS4 could work, probably work for you for a little bit. There will be a need when games get developed super well, which in playing with Valhalla, there's a time when certain graphics didn't look like they should. There's like stuttering, and there's like not tracking very well and that sort of stuff. And so that part kind of influenced my first impressions on Valhalla. But anyway, this is PS5 review. This is Football Freak 215. I'm kind of rambling into nothing here. I'm not necessarily going to give it a score or anything, because I don't really have that many consoles that I'm scoring. But if I say that if I could have this or a different system, I'd probably want this system, just for me in general. So with that being said, that's pretty much my PS5 review. I hope you get an understanding of kind of what the features are and what they have in them, and what's available for them. If you would think about leaving a like, hitting the sub button, that'd be great. If you've made it this part of the video, you're insane. I'm astounded. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I will see you guys in the next one. Deuces.